So as we have seen before, here we have the one here means this should be 5 volt and this should be ground. So let's check whether this is ground or not. So first we should put the multimeter to the buzzer option, as you can see here, and then press the power button. Okay, so let's check the continuity. The continuity is set correctly. So for this USB connector here, this is for 5 volt. Why? Because here we have 1. Means this should not be connected to the ground, as you can see. Okay, not connected to the ground, but this should be connected to the ground, as you can see. Okay, the same also for this. This should be connected to the ground, but this should not be connected to the ground because this is the 5 volt pin, and these two also should not be connected to the ground. If these two pins that are for data is connected or are connected to the ground, means the ICH is shorted. Okay, so 5 volt should need to be connected to the ground. These two pins also for data should not be connected to the ground. If you find that one of these pins or both are connected to the ground, means the ICH is shorted. Here we have the ICH. This is the CPU. Okay, here we have the GMCH or the North Bridge. This is the graphic card, and over here we have the ICH. If you find that these two here or these two here are connected or shorted to the ground, means automatically the ICH is shorted to the ground. Okay, so now let's see the other side of these connectors. So as you can see here in the other side, so we have this chemical capacitor, we have the IC, we have the fuse resistor, we have this PF capacitor, we have the inductor. This component are for this USB connector. So if you focus here, as you can see, you will see here we have 1. As you can see, we have here 1. Here means this pin here is the pin number 1, pin number 2, 3, and 4. So this means 5 volt. So because this pin, as you can see here, is pin number 1, because we have here 1, it should be connected to what? To the plus of the chemical capacitor. The plus of the chemical capacitor is here, as you see. So let's check. As you can see, so the pin number 1 is connected to the plus of chemical capacitor, exactly as we have seen in the circuit diagram. Okay, and of course the plus of chemical capacitor should be connected to the output of this IC. And the second thing to check is the fuse. Let's check whether the fuse is good or not. So the fuse is good. If you find a buzzer, or if you hear a buzzer, or you get a low resistance in the multimeter, means the fuse is good. So this fuse is good. Let's check also the chemical capacitor. The chemical capacitor is good. If you hear a buzzer, testing the chemical capacitor means shorted to the ground. So the chemical capacitor is good. Here we have the IC. So let's check this PF capacitor. The PF capacitor is good, means the IC also is good. Okay, so for the fuse should get a buzzer, good. So the fuse also is good. So let's check this chemical capacitor. This chemical capacitor also is good. Now here, as you can see, here we have 5 volt, here we have D minus and D plus, and here we have the ground. So let's check first this pin, the fourth pin, as you can see, to the ground. We should get a continuity or here a buzzer, as you can see. Okay, And if we check these two pins, as you can see here, these two in the center, in the middle, these two pins should be connected to the inductor. So let's check this one. As you can see, connected to the first inductor. So let's check the second one to the inductor. So here we have the first inductor, here we have the second. So let's check, as you can see. Okay, and of course the fourth one is connected to the ground. So let's check the second connector, the same principle. Here we have the first connector. So this first connector should be connected to the chemical capacitor, as you can see. Let's check the fuse. The fuse is good. We have IC. Let's check this PF capacitor. So no buzzer means the PF capacitor is not shorted, means the IC is good. Because always, how can we test the ICs? To test the IC, you should just any IC. Okay? To test any IC, you should just check the PF capacitor around the IC. If you find a bad PF capacitor or ceramic capacitor, if you find, for example, a buzzer, when you check the capacitor like this, means the IC is shorted to the ground. Okay? Always you should check for every IC, always you should check the PF capacitor or ceramic capacitor around it. For example, for this IC, you should just check this PF or ceramic capacitor. If you find a shorted capacitor, means the IC is bad. So for this IC, for the USB connector, as you see, we check the ceramic capacitor. The ceramic capacitor is good, means the IC also is good. Okay, and of course for the other pins, as you see, the data minus and data plus will be connected to this inductor. Okay, so as you can see here, for this motherboard, as you can see, it contains just one IC and one chemical capacitor for both USB connector. So as you can see here, we have this dot here. As you can see, we have dot here and we have another dot here. Means the first pin for these connectors are here. Okay, so this is the first pin, and over here we have the first pin here. So let's check the first pin with the chemical capacitor. So let's check. I will put one probe here in the first pin and check with the chemical capacitor. As you can see, we have continuity. So let's check also between the chemical capacitor and the first pin of this connector. Let's check. Normally we should get a buzzer, a continuity, because here we have just one chemical capacitor. So let's check, as you can see. Okay, so the first pin here and the first pin here are connected together, as you can see. So let's check this and this, as you can see, connected together, because here we have 5 volt and here we have 5 volt. Of course, here the chemical capacitor should be connected here to one pin here. The output, as you can see, is connected to this pin, to the output of this IC. Okay, so let's check another motherboard. So here, as you can see, this motherboard, we have a chemical capacitor in this shape. We have here plus. Here we have this mark, this triangle, means this is pin number 1, 2, 3 and 4. So let's check the pin number 1 with the plus of the chemical capacitor. So let's check. So here we have pin number 1 here. Let's put one probe here of the multimeter and put the other probe here into plus of chemical capacitor, as you can see. Okay, do you hear a buzzer? Means this is connected to this. Of course, if you focus here, you will find here a bus, as you see. Okay, and this should be connected to what? To the ground, because this is the 4th pin. So let's check, as you can see. And these two are data pins. Okay, these two should be connected to this inductor, as you can see here. So these two pins are for data plus and data minus. Here we have two inductors, as you can see. Okay, here we have L7, two inductors. So as we have seen in the schematic, these two pins should be connected to these two inductors. So let's see again in the schematic. So as you can see here, we have D minus, D plus are connected directly to these inductors, as you can see. So let's check between these two terminals. Let's check these terminals first. So here we have 5 volt, here we have D minus. Let's check this with this, for example, as you can see. So let's check also this with this, as you can see. Okay, so the first pin means the VCC pin is connected to plus of the chemical capacitor, and the second pin means D minus is connected to this inductor, okay, or to this fuse resistor. Okay, yeah, this is a fuse resistor, as you can see. This is a fuse resistor. Okay, do you hear a buzzer? This is a fuse resistor. And the third pin means D plus is connected to the other fuse resistor, and the fourth pin is connected to the ground. Always the fourth pin is connected to the ground, as you can see. So let's check in the other motherboards. Okay, so you should always check the chemical capacitor. Check also this inductor. If you have one inductor that is failed, if the inductor is failed, you will not hear a buzzer, you will not get a continuity. The inductor is exactly like a fuse. You should get a continuity when testing it. And for chemical capacitor, you can test it, as you can see, by selecting the buzzer option in the multimeter. Okay, and then let's check the continuity. The continuity is set correctly. So you can check the chemical capacitor by checking its terminals, as you can see. No buzzer, no continuity means this capacitor is good. Okay.